Dzień dobry, witam wszystkich. Nazywam się Franciszek Szkudlarek, mam 17 lat, chodzę do 4. klasy w liceum ogólnokształcącym imienia Kazimierza Wielkiego w Kole. Jestem przewodniczącym samorządu uczniowskiego. Moje zainteresowania to przestrzeń kosmiczna, lotnictwo oraz lekkoatletyka. Zapomniałem wziąć pytania, które zadam. Przepraszam. Już mam. Moje pytanie brzmi: do you think it is possible to fully prepare for life in space? Over. Co w tłumaczeniu jest, czy uważasz, że można w pełni przygotować się do życia w kosmosie? Dziękuję.
Cześć, nazywam się Marta, chodzę do 7. klasy szkoły podstawowej nr 2 imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Kole i chodzę do 7. klasy. Moje zainteresowania to biologia, chemia, czytanie książek i anatomia, a moje pytanie brzmi: what is the most exciting experiment you are conducting? Które tłumaczymy na jakie doświadczenie, które obecnie przeprowadzasz na ISS, uważasz za najciekawsze?
Dzień dobry, mam na imię Wojtek, chodzę do klasy 1 w zespole szkół technicznych w Kole, interesuję się informatyką, robotyką oraz astronomią. Pytaniem, które zadam astronautce brzmi: how do you generate electricity on the ISS? Co oznacza, w jaki sposób wytwarzacie energię elektryczną na ISS?
Dzień dobry, nazywam się Magdalena. Chodzę do 8. klasy szkoły podstawowej w Ruszkowie I. Interesuję się matematyką i mitologią grecką. Pytanie, które zadaję astronautce to: what is it like to sneeze in space? Co tłumaczymy jako: jak to jest kichnąć w kosmosie?
Dzień dobry, mam na imię Ania, chodzę do klasy 8 szkoły podstawowej imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Barłogach. Interesuję się czytaniem książek i strażą pożarną. Moje pytanie brzmi: how long does it take you to travel from Earth to the ISS? Co znaczy, ile trwa podróż z Ziemi na ISS?
Dzień dobry, jestem Aleksander Kuligowski i jestem uczniem 1. klasy Liceum Ogólnokształcącego imienia Kazimierza Wielkiego w Kole o profilu biologiczno-chemicznym. Zainteresuję się muzyką, strzelectwem i strażą pożarną oraz jako krótkofalowiec reprezentuję nasz szkolski klub krótkofalowców SP3PGZ, który swoją siedzibę właśnie ma w tym oto liceum. A pytanie, które zadam astronautce brzmi: how long did it take you to become an astronaut? Co oznacza, ile czasu zajęło ci, aby zostać astronautką? Dziękuję.
Dzień dobry, mam na imię Nikola, chodzę do 8. klasy szkoły podstawowej nr 2 imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Kole. Moimi zainteresowaniami jest gastronomia, muzyka oraz chemia. Pytanie, które zadam astronautce brzmi: which song do you think best suits the view of Earth from the ISS? Co w tłumaczeniu brzmi: jaka piosenka twoim zdaniem najlepiej pasuje do widoku z Ziemi z pokładu ISS? Dziękuję.
Cześć, jestem Klaudia, mam 14 lat i chodzę do klasy 8 szkoły podstawowej w Ruszkowie I. Nie mam zbyt wielu zainteresowań, ale głównie interesuję się muzyką, a czasem sobie pomaluję. Pytanie, które zadam astronautce brzmi: is it possible to create a soap bubble in space? Co w tłumaczeniu: czy w kosmosie da się stworzyć bańkę mydlaną? Dziękuję.
Dzień dobry, jestem Maja, chodzę do 8. klasy szkoły podstawowej imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Barłogach. Interesuję się jazdą konną, a pytanie, które zadam astronautce brzmi: how does space flight affect the human body? Co oznacza, jak lot w kosmos wpływa na organizm człowieka?
Dzień dobry, mam na imię Piotr, jestem uczniem Liceum Ogólnokształcącego imienia Kazimierza Wielkiego w Kole w klasie maturalnej o profilu matematyczno-fizycznym. Interesuję się pożarnictwem i ratownictwem, a pytanie, które dzisiaj zadam brzmi: can AI technology replace any of the tasks performed by the ISS crew? co po polsku znaczy, czy technologia sztucznej inteligencji może zastąpić niektóre zadania wykonywane przez załogę ISS. Dziękuję.
Dzień dobry, mam na imię Amelia, mam 12 lat i chodzę do 7. klasy szkoły podstawowej nr 2 imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Kole. Moje zainteresowania to informatyka i plastyka. Moje pytanie to: Do you grow any plants on the ISS over? Co znaczy, czy uprawiacie jakieś rośliny na ISS? Dziękuję.
Cześć, jestem Piotrek, mam 12 lat, chodzę do szkoły podstawowej nr 2 imienia Adama Mickiewicza w Kole. Moimi zainteresowaniami jest muzyka, historia oraz informatyka, a moje pytanie to: How do you spend your free time in space? Czyli jak spędzasz wolny czas w kosmosie? Dziękuję.
Okay, we just finished.
Okay, Arman.
We are 2 minutes after the time, so we can start. Gian Pietro.
Okay, so I'm ready. Let me remind everyone that we are recording the event, and I will ask Lisa to start the recording on Verizon.
Okay, the conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. You may begin.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So let's get started. Hello, everyone from Italy. My name is Gian Pietro Ferrario. My call sign is India Zulu 2 Golf Oscar Juliet, and I will be your ARISS moderator for today for your ARISS contact with MDK, Municipal Cultural Center in Koło, Poland. Sorry for not pronouncing in Polish your name.
It's perfect.
It's complicated for me. So through the help of the amateur radio volunteers and the crew on the ISS, we will establish soon a radio contact with the ISS as it flies more than 400 kilometers, 250 miles above the Earth, as it passes over Hollis in New Hampshire, USA. This is all accomplished through ARISS, which means amateur radio on the International Space Station. The ISS is currently approaching today's ARISS ground station, traveling along at around 27,600 kilometers per hour. The contact for today will be performed using the ARISS Celebrity Network, a worldwide network of amateur radio ground stations that enable students to get in touch with the ISS. ARISS is an international consortium of volunteers from several nations that assist to develop and operate the amateur radio equipment on the ISS. Among the many members organizations supporting ARISS is the Polish Amateur Radio Union, EZK. Some of the agencies and organizations that support ARISS are the ARRL, Amateur Radio Relay League, the Worldwide AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Corporations, the Canadian Space Agency, the European Space Agency, ESA, the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, Roscosmos, the Russian Space Agency, and NASA from the US. We will now show a short film featuring the late Gaston Bertels, ON4WF, who served as ARISS chairman for so many years. In 2016, he gave a talk about ARISS milestones, some of which are still relevant today. So please show the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first element of the unique orbiting laboratory complex, home to the first permanent amateur radio station in space, was launched November 20, 1998. Since attaining orbit, the ISS has grown from a lone, uninhabited module into a continuously staffed, multi-module research facility. The amateur radio on the International Space Station ARISS program has been a part of the ISS Since November 2000, when the Expedition 1 crew of William Shepard, KD-5 GSL, Yuri Gidzenko, and Sergei Krikaliev, U-5 Mir, arrived on board for a 4-month tour. The first element of the ISS, the Russian Zarya Functional Cargo Block, or FGB, was launched in 1998 from Baikonur, Kazakhstan. The shuttle Endeavour delivered the second element, the US connecting module called Unity, 2 weeks later. The ARISS initial station gear went into space in September 2000. It was an Ericsson handheld transceiver delivering nominally 5 watts radio frequency power. A month later, the FCC granted vanity call sign NA1SS to the International Space Station Amateur Radio Club for US ARISS operations, and Russia issued the call signs RZ3DZR and RS0ISS for ISS use. Using the initial ham station gear, William Shepard, KD-5 GSL, who dubbed the ISS Space Station Alpha, made the first ARISS school group contact on December 21, 2000, answering questions posed by students at Luther Burbank Elementary School near Chicago. Some 200 youngsters, teachers, parents, and news media representatives were on hand to witness the event. This was an important milestone with many more to come. The first ARISS station used antennas on Zarya. These antennas were initially operational during the first building phases of the International Space Station. They were offered for ARISS use when the agencies did not need them anymore. In subsequent years, 4 antennas were installed on the Russian service module Zvezda, the living place of the Russian crew. In that module, a Kenwood D700 VHF-UHF transceiver was soon installed, boosting the ARISS transmitting power from 5 watt to 25 watt. Meanwhile, ESA, the European Space Agency, was building Columbus. In 2002, a request was submitted by ARISS Europe chairman for providing amateur radio facilities on this new module. The idea was to install antennas on the nadir of Columbus before launch. Columbus was to be transported by a space shuttle to the ISS, and very little space was left between the module and the shuttle bay. Therefore, only flat patch antennas could be installed. Initially, provisions were made for UHF, L-band and S-band antennas, and to cover the development, manufacturing and certification cost, a funding campaign was launched worldwide. Finally, enough money was collected for L and S-band antennas, which were developed by Professor Pavel Kabachik at the Institute of Telecommunications and Acoustics of the Wrocław University of Technology. When Columbus was launched and attached to the ISS, February 7, 2008, there were ARISS antennas on board. This was another milestone. Soon after, ESA was planning an experiment and needed a VHF antenna on Columbus. ARISS Europe chairman incidentally pointed to the way the ARISS antennas had been installed on Zvezda. The antennas were clipped on handrails around the Russian module by fixtures dubbed Gator, an acronym for Grappling Adapter to On-Orbit Handrails. Interestingly, Gator is also short for alligator, the crocodile species common in Florida. Gators were used for the ESA VHF antenna as well as for the ARISS VHF UHF antenna, which was installed at the same time, November 2009. One more milestone. Soon the VHF UHF antenna was used for ARISS school contacts, together with a backup unit of the original Ericsson, once used in the early days on Zarya. This is still the setup in use today. So, in 2010, ARISS was active on Columbus on VHF. LS-band antennas were installed and tested, but no amateur equipment was on board to put them in use. The intent was to install an amateur television transmitter. A debate between proponents of analog ATV and proponents of digital ATV turned to the advantage of the latter. AMSAT Italia took the lead and, with the support of astronaut Paolo Nespoli, approached ESA. The agency signed a contract with manufacturer Kaiser Italia for the development of a DATV transmitter, which was called ham video. After a long certification procedure, the ham video transmitter was finally upmasked to the ISS. The commissioning of the ham video transmitter was performed April to March 2014, another milestone. The use of the ham video transmitter has been entrusted officially by ESA to ARISS, but its implementation for school contacts is not straightforward. Ham video uses a camera that is battery fed. That means that before each use, the astronaut has to install fresh batteries and withdraw them after the radio contact. Moreover, according NASA rules, any images taken on the ISS shall be recorded and downloaded via a dedicated computer. Altogether, whereas a regular ARISS school contact takes 20 minutes on the timeline of the astronaut, a ham video enhanced school contact would take twice as much. Given the astronaut's workload, the NASA planners limit the time for an ARISS school contact to the minimum. The additional operations needed for ham video, the battery exchange, the recording and the downloading, can be performed before and after the contact, during the free time of the astronaut. The decision to support ham video operations depends entirely on the astronaut. The first astronaut who supported ham video for school contacts was Major Tim Peake, KG-5 BVI, during the Principia mission in 2016. One more ARISS milestone. Meanwhile, the ham video transmitter is permanently transmitting without camera, with sound level at 0. This is most useful for the ground stations, which need these signals for testing and tuning their antennas. In the near future, other milestones are in the pipeline. The US ARISS team is building an interoperable power supply, so called because it is intended for use in Columbus as well as in Zvezda. Interestingly, the mains in the Russian sector of the ISS are at 28 volts DC, whereas they are at 120 volts DC in the American sector, and Columbus belongs to the American sector. The interoperable power supply will provide power to all the ISS equipment in Columbus, the ham video transmitter as well as the future Kenwood D710 transceiver, which will boost power for ARISS school contacts. Moreover, a slideshow unit is planned for permanent ham TV transmissions. These are the past, present and future milestones along the road of the ARISS success story. A great story to tell about. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Armand. Today's contact will use the new interoperable radio system, which is now in regular operation since 2020, that you didn't see in the video. To link up with the participants at the MDK Municipal Cultural Center in Kolu, Poland, now let's check in with the group. So I'm asking Mike to please tell us about those participating in today's event. To you, Mike.
Yes, I am. Ladies and gentlemen, dear teachers and students from our 5 schools, and all our special guests, welcome to the Municipal Cultural Center in Koło. It's a real pleasure to see you here at the place that inspires creativity and helps young people develop their talents and passions in STEAM and space explorations. Today we have around 250 people in audience. Thank you all for joining us this special event. Students from the following 5 schools in Koło and nearby villages have been selected for the upcoming ARISS contact. Adam Mickiewicz Primary School number 2 in Koło with preschool and sports departments, Primary School in Ruszków I, Adam Mickiewicz Primary School in Barłogi, Kazimierz Wielki High School in Koło, and the Technical School Complex in Koło. Some of these students are long-standing members of the Young Explorers Club Polska Wyspa, active at Primary School number 2 in Koło since 2013. The club collaborates with Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw and VSRO, Poland, the educational branch of the European Space Agency. They participated in Earth mission and received photographs of Earth taken from the International Space Station, some of which are now displayed in exhibition here on the stage and in a hall. They also participated in an international research project called Small Corrosion, Big Food, testing how different substances affect the rate of corrosion. In another project, Dream Builders, they designed and built their own cardboard rockets and tested them on the school playground using a compressed air launcher, reaching distances of 15 to 70 meters. These experiments brought about excitement and practical lessons in physics and engineering. The students also took part in 2 national competitions, Colors of Earth and Space Detectives, organized by Polish Space Agency as part of the educational program of ISS mission, which involves Poland's second astronaut, Sławomir Znański-Wiśniewski. The teachers participated as well, joining the Let's Discover It program, STEAM training course organized by educators from Copernicus Science Center, where they gained valuable knowledge and practical skills now used in the classroom. One of the students who recently obtained his ham radio license has been learning how to receive radio signals and decode SSTV images from the International Space Station. Several teachers and members of the local community participated in these activities, successfully receiving images themselves and earning ARISS SSTV awards in recognition of their achievements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We will now take a look at the video presentation produced by the American Radio Relay link which shows students what to expect during our upcoming contact with the ISS.
Hi, my name is Ruth.
And my name is Chris.
You must be pretty excited to talk directly with astronauts on the International Space Station today. While we're waiting for the space station to come over your portion of the sky, let's talk a little bit about how it's going to happen. Of course, Mission Control is in contact with astronauts all the time, using a big radio with lots of fancy equipment.
However, we're going to be using something very different today. We are going to use ham or amateur radio to talk directly to the International Space Station.
When most people hear the word radio, they think of a music radio station, but it's so much more than that. Radio actually refers to the unseen energy that transmits all sorts of signals using electromagnetic waves. At first, people learned how to send signals like Morse code, and then they discovered that you can send so much more, like data, computer signals, and even TV.
Maybe you don't realize it, but you use radio every day. Maybe you watched the TV this morning, or you texted your friends, or maybe even you check social media like Twitter or Instagram.
Let's travel back to space for a minute. Since the beginning of the space age, humans have sent many spacecraft out into the universe. These range from the Hubble Space Telescope, orbiting the Earth daily, and the Curiosity rover exploring Mars. We've even sent a long-distance messenger, the Voyager 1, who has traveled outside of our solar system.
Whether it's capturing a great picture of a far-off galaxy or conducting experiments on the space station, radio has to do with all of these. And today, you're going to be using ham radio. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is ham radio?
Amateur or ham radio is a service and a hobby where operators can talk with people around their neighborhoods, their cities, their country, and even around the world. Amateur radio operators require a radio license from the government. They're not that hard to get. I have one. My call sign is KM4LAO.
And mine is KD8YVJ. Our call signs are a way of identifying who we are to other operators. This lets everyone know that we have the proper license to using the radios.
As amateur radio operators, or hams as we are often called, we can talk with others about basically whatever we want, often science or some new radio gadget that we are interested in.
Let's focus back to the space station and your contact today. Many of the astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the space station are licensed ham radio operators. That's why your operators today can contact them. The people here, as well as the astronauts, are licensed to talk to each other, and you are allowed to talk over to their radio.
For our conversation today, we'll need an amateur radio station on the ground, either in this location or somewhere else around the world. We'll also need a radio in the space station.
NA1SS, NA1SS.
You can hear the calls come. This is November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra, the International Space Station, over.
On the space station, the radio transceiver is connected to an amateur radio antenna mounted on the outside. One of these antennas will be used today during our contact.
For our side of the contact, we need a good-sized antenna, a signal amplifier, something to make our signal stronger, and a rotator for turning our antenna. We have to keep our antenna pointed right at the International Space Station. And remember, it's moving across the sky and fast.
To aim the antenna properly, we need to track the path of the space station exactly. NASA uses complex systems to track the path of the space station and other orbiting objects.
The satellite tracking program we are using works out a complicated set of mathematics to provide the orbital location of the space station moment by moment as it moves through space. This information is sent into the computer that controls the antenna rotator, which moves the antenna to follow the space station. Maybe some of you have seen or worked with robotics. That's pretty cool stuff. And just like you can program a robot where to go, what to do, and how to get there, you can also program a computer to tell an antenna how to track the space station across the sky.
You know, it took a lot of planning to get this contact. Several weeks ago, the ARISS operations team had to figure out when the space station's orbit would pass over this location. Then, they had to talk with the planners at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The cruise time is pretty full, so they were able to find a time that could work for the crew members' schedules. Once they found times that would work both in space and here on the ground, the host organized this contact. And in just a few minutes, you'll be hearing and talking to the astronauts.
Well, it's almost time for your contact. It will be exciting, so good luck with it.
Okay, Mom. I think we are running a little bit late in time. So if you agree, I will skip the video with Team Peak and go into the next. Otherwise, we will come too late.
Right.
So I think. Okay. Okay. Now I think that comes the most exciting part. Your contact with the astronaut Zina Cardman on the ISS. Our contract for today, as I was telling, is with the NASA astronaut Zina Cardman, amateur radio call sign KJ5CMN. We will be using the ISS amateur radio call sign NA1SS. The amateur radio ground station that will establish radio contact with the ISS today is the ARISS ground station AB10C, located in Hollis, New Hampshire, USA, operated by Fred Kemmerer, AB10C. We are about 6 minutes before the planned acquisition of signal from ISS. With the time for the ARISS contact quickly approaching, we want to remind all to please mute your cell phone and be quiet, as quiet as possible when not asking astronaut Zina Cardman a question. And this is also for everybody in the room. Remember, what we are doing on ISS is an experiment, so we can never tell the results, positive or negative, until the experiment is over. And questioners, please do not forget to say over at the end of your question. So the ISS will soon come into radio range of AB10C ground station in Hollis. So Fred, it's all yours. Good luck. Fred, before the contact begins, please tell us a little bit about AB10C station and how you will end the contact today with the ISS. From my side, over.
Very good, Jean Petro. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. My name is Fred Kemmer. My amateur radio call sign is AB10C, or Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie. I'm going to be providing the radio link to the International Space Station for your contact with Zina Cardman today. As Jean Petro mentioned, I'm located in New Hampshire, and I think if you all can bring up on the stage the tracking view, which we've got, you will see the ISS is just west of me now, traveling at about 27,600 miles per hour. We're going to use computers to automate our contact with the ISS, and I've engaged the computers, and they are now controlling the antennas and the radio here. If you want to bring up the review of the antennas for a little bit, we'll take a look at those. About a minute before the ISS comes into range here, the computers will take control of the antennas and point them at the location on the horizon where the ISS will come up. When the blue circle, if we go back to the tracking view on the stage, around the International Space Station turns from blue to red, that will mean that the ISS is within radio range of my station here in New Hampshire, which is about 60 kilometers or so north of Boston, Massachusetts. That would be the closest major city on the northeast. I will begin to call Zina. When Zina answers and we get a good solid radio link, I'll turn the contact over to you. Now remember, students, we can only talk in one direction at a time, so it's very important when you're done asking your question that you say over clearly. That signals me to change the radio link from transmit to receive, and Zina will do the same thing when she's done, say over, and that's how you will know when it's time to make your next question. We're about, at my mark, will be T-minus 3 minutes to acquisition of signal. The ISS is getting close now. Mark, T-minus 3 minutes to contact. The ISS has just broken the west coast of Canada and is over western Canada right now, traveling in our direction at 27,600 kilometers per hour. This pass will be a very high one. It will go up to almost 50 degrees, which is quite a high pass. We should get at least 10 and a half minutes to make our contact today with the ISS. And we'll probably have very, very good audio for most of the contact. If you could switch back over to the antenna view now, at my mark, we're going to be at T-minus 2 minutes to contact. At T-minus 1, if you show the antennas on the display in the room there, you will see the antennas will be turned by the computer to point directly at the International Space Station. Mark, T-minus 2 minutes to contact. The ISS is now over the western or central part of Canada, just the north of the United States, and will be within radio range very, very shortly here. You can see, if you can see on the screen, the antennas are now tracking in on the ISS, and we will soon be able to begin calling and make our contact. I will go ahead and count down the last minute at about every 10 seconds, and probably about 10 to 15 seconds or 20 maybe before I'll begin to call Xena on the ISS. When I do that, you'll hear the noise of the radio channel break in. It will be quite loud, and that will allow us to hear on Xena as soon as she begins to make contact. We're just about 1 minute away now. On my mark will be T-minus 1 minute and to our contact. Mark, T-minus 1 minute to contact. And I'm going to go ahead in about 20 seconds and bring the radio into play here. The computers already have complete control of the station here, and I'm just along for the ride as you are at this point in time. We're T-minus 45 right now, and we'll begin calling probably in about 30 seconds or so. The contact will be quite nice today. I see that the sun is starting to come up here, and the antennas look very, very nice here in that view. T-minus 30 seconds. We'll begin calling in about 15 seconds. Students, good luck with your contact. Don't forget to say over, and enjoy the experience. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie for a scheduled school contact. Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie for a scheduled school contact. Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie for a scheduled school contact. Over.
Alpha Bravo 1 Oscar Charlie. This is NAIS. Welcome aboard.
All right, Xena, loud and clear. Students, go ahead and ask your first question.
Hello, I'm Franek. Do you think it is possible to fully prepare for life in space? Over.
Hello, Dzień dobry, and welcome to the International Space Station. That's a great question. I don't think it's ever possible to fully prepare for life in space, just the same way as it's never possible to fully prepare for life on Earth. I think we can think about the risks, think about the challenges, and practice for the hardest things, but ultimately there are some things we can only know in hindsight, and we just have to learn by doing the thing. Over.
I'm Marta. What is the most exciting experiment you're conducting? Over.
I love the research that we do on the human body here. As astronauts in space, we experience a lot of the same stressors as immunocompromised populations or aging populations on Earth. And so learning and studying what causes those things here for us on short time scales, and then also how we recover from those, will help us treat diseases like osteoporosis on Earth. Over.
I'm Wojtek. How do you generate electricity on the ISS? Over.
We have huge solar arrays on the outside of the space station, and we can rotate them so that they track the sun. We've been completely solar generated for 25 years now of human presence on the ISS, and we also have some large battery banks so that we can still have power and electricity inside when we are in orbital nighttime. Over.
Hi, I'm Magdalena. What is it like to sneeze in space? Over.
Unfortunately, it's just like sneezing on Earth. We don't generate enough force, or there's not enough mass in a sneeze to propel you like a little miniature rocket, and that's true for any gases that might come out of the human body. But it's still fun to do flips up here. Over.
Hi, I'm Anya. How long does it take you to travel from Earth to the ISS? Over.
It can vary depending where you're launching from and what kind of rocket you're launching in. For everyone, it takes about 9 minutes to get to orbit. So orbital velocity from whether you're launching from Kazakhstan or from Florida. For me, it took about 14 hours after that to chase down the International Space Station before docking and arrival, but it can take as little as 3 hours and as long as about 30. Over.
I'm Alexander. How long did it take you to become an astronaut? Over.
In some ways, maybe my whole life I've been practicing or training, even though I didn't know I wanted to be an astronaut until after college, really. I was hired when I was still a graduate student. I was about halfway through the PhD program, so I feel very lucky that way. I was still in my 20s when I was hired. Once you're hired, it's about 2 years of initial training, and then it took me about 6 years after that before I had my first flight assignment. Over.
Hi, I'm Nicola. Which song do you think best suits the view of Earth from the ISS? Over.
Oh, that's a great question, but also impossible to answer. I have so many different songs I think of, but for me, it depends completely on my mood and how I'm feeling, and how I feel when I look at the Earth is probably different than you would feel looking at the Earth. So imagine a song that generates for you a lot of emotion and includes all of the bad with all of the good all at the same time, everything beautiful and challenging. That's how I feel when I look at the Earth. Over.
I'm Claudia. Is it possible to create a soap bubble in space? Over.
Yes, it is possible to create a soap bubble. And it's really interesting here because we don't have density-driven or buoyancy-driven processes when we're floating in weightlessness. Things like surface tension take over, and so you can do some really interesting, delicate things with fluids. Over.
Hi, I'm Maya. How does space flight affect the human body? Over.
In a lot of different ways. Some of the first things that you notice are your inner ear, which helps you on Earth with balance, is a little bit confused when you first become weightless, and so that's the first thing you have to adjust to. Also, all of the fluids in your body re-equilibrate, and so people wind up with kind of puffy faces or a little bit of a headache. And on the long scale, we also have to exercise every single day so that we don't lose bone density or muscle mass. Over.
Hi, I'm Piotr. Can AI technology replace any of the tasks performed by the ISS crew? Over.
Yeah, I think absolutely, and that's probably coming in the not-so-distant future. For now, we have a lot of things that astronauts have to do manually, but we also have a lot of automated tasks. And we see that in the spacecraft and the rockets that take us to the International Space Station as well. I think automation is very powerful and helps us do more powerful things than we could do just by ourselves. Over.
I'm Amelia. Do you grow any plants on the ISS? Over.
Yes, we've grown lots of plants on the International Space Station. Some plants do better than others up here, but we've grown mustard leaves, we've grown tomatoes even. It's, I think, going to be really important to grow plants as we start going on longer duration missions and turn our focus to going to the moon for long durations and eventually to Mars. Over.
Hi, I'm Piotr. How do you spend your free time in space? Over.
For me, I love taking photos. I love photography even on Earth, and so being up here and getting to see Earth from this vantage point It's always changing. There's different light. We get 16 sunrises and sunsets every day, and I absolutely love being in the cupola window with a camera. Over.
I'm Franek. What surprised you most about the daily routine on the ISS? Over.
You know, it's surprising almost how normal it feels. I think the brain is incredibly adaptable, and it was so amazing to see how quickly our brains adapted to living and working in this three-dimensional environment. Like, I sleep in the ceiling, and that just feels completely normal, and I can carry 200-kilogram objects with my feet, and that feels totally normal too. Over.
I'm Malta. What tools do astronauts use most during spacewalk repairs? Over.
I think the most important tool is our hands. We're really working heavily with our hands on a spacewalk. Walking is maybe not the right term. It's more like we're climbing on the space station like a jungle gym. We also use things like the pistol grip tool, which is basically like a driver on a handheld drill that you have at home, so turning bolts. We also have ratchets and other tools as well, but it depends what kind of spacewalk you're doing and what you're repairing. Over.
I'm Wojtek. What is the hardest thing to adjust to zero gravity on the ISS? Over.
I think learning to adapt to these spaces when you can enter a room from the ceiling or the wall or the floor from all of these different perspectives and remapping your brain to adjust to that environment is really interesting and challenging. Over.
I'm Magdalena. What memorable traditions do astronauts share on the ISS? Over.
Well, we have lots of traditions. One of my favorites that I've learned about is making space cake. This is for big occasions, things like someone's 100th or 200th day in space or someone's birthday. And space cake here, we don't have real cake and we don't have ovens, and so we make it usually out of some bread and some pudding and peanut butter and whatever other ingredients we want to put into it. And it's really fun. Over.
I'm Anya. What is your favorite food on the ISS? Over.
Ooh, besides the space cake that I just talked about, maybe the lasagna, and I also love coffee and hot chocolate. Over.
I'm Alexander. What is the temperature inside and outside the ISS? Over.
Inside the ISS, it's just like your house at home. Outside, it can be anywhere from positive 150 degrees Celsius to minus 150, depending whether you're in sunlight or in nighttime. Over.
Students, would you like to last question and say goodbye?
Let's try with questions.
I'm Nicola. What emotions do you experience during the rocket launch? Over.
It was pure joy. Over.
I'm Claudia.
Go ahead and say goodbye, folks.
19. Over.
Okay, Zena, thank you so much for all you do to young people. This is NA1SS AB10C. Thanks and be safe. All right, students, very good job. Congratulations. Back to you, Jean-Petro.
Oh. Fred, thank you very much. Thank you that you were. Thank you for you as operator. Thank you for your equipment that you allow us to use it, and thank you also for moderator and operator for their time and excellent work today. And I really appreciate everyone who supported this event, and I believe it was a really fantastic time and experience. Gian Pietro.
Yes, thank you, Arman. Congratulations to everyone. I don't know if you want to also have some words from Mike before we go to the end.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Zina Kardman for the conversation with my students. I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to the students from 5 schools for their enthusiastic participation in the academy, to the teachers for their dedication and efforts in preparing the program, to the volunteers for their invaluable help and support in organizing the event, and to the staff of the Municipal Cultural Center for their kindness, cooperation, and the wonderful setting they provided. I would also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the entire team of radio amateurs from around the world who are engaged in ARISS amateur radio on the International Space Station. Thank you for your equipment, documentation, valuable advice, time, and all your efforts in helping to make this event possible. We are reminded that International Space Station is a joint international endeavor, a true symbol of global cooperation and friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have just shared a wow moment of history. Amateur radio ground station AB10C, located in Hollis, New Hampshire, USA, and the operator, Fred Kemmerer at AB10C, contacted astronaut Zina Kardman, KJ5CMN, aboard the ISS and spoke with students at MDK, Municipal Cultural Center in Kolo, Poland. Now for the international volunteer team of ARISS, including the Amateur Radio Satellite Corporation around the world, the Amateur Radio Relay League, the Canadian Space Agency, the European Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency, Roscosmos, and NASA. This is Gianpietro Ferrario, India Zulu 2 Golf Oscar Juliet, your ARISS moderator for today, sending my greetings to all of you in the amateur radio temps, which is 70 degrees, and best wishes to everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks again, and congratulations again.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, I think, Lisa, you can stop the recording now if you want.
Okay, I sure will.
Okay. Thank you, John Pedro. Wonderful job. And I'll be here for any questions or anything that you want to talk about post-contact.
Thank you, Fred. Outstanding job from your side. Very good level of signal and very good quality of audio from the ISS. Very well done. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's a pleasure to work with you.